excited today to introduce you the Congressman from the 6th Congressional District, Garret. Let me just remind you of some of the ways he's impacted our state really quickly before he comes up here to speak. For the 116th Congress, Garret is the ranking member for the House Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee on Aviation and is the ranking member for the new Select Committee on the Climate Crisis. He also serves on House Natural Resources. Last Congress, Garret chaired the Subcommittee on Water Resources and Environment and was instrumental in the development, passage, and enactment of a range of policy wins on rivers, levees, flood protection, coastal issues, and Corps of Engineer reforms, all things very dear to our hearts. A few projects that he has had a tremendous impact on are the Washington Street exit reconfiguration, I-10 expansion, and other traffic improvements. Hallelujah. Amen. Garret also tried to change federal law to fix the so-called duplication of benefits fiasco for the thousands of 2016 flood victims. He further secured full funding for the Coney River diversion, West Shore, and other major flood protection projects. Garret's leadership in Congress has been tremendous, and I know that we are all very grateful for the work he does on our behalf each and every day in our Congress. So without further ado, Congressman Garret.
Thank you all. Lord, thank you for the kind introduction, and great to join you. You know, Julie mentioned that I didn't have an incumbent to overcome, and she's right, I didn't, but I did have Edwin Edwards. And I'll tell you, lots of words come out to describe that, but that was amazing. So my mother's here, and I heard her introduced earlier, and when I walked in, I saw this confused look in her face. Somebody called her and said, "Hey, your favorite child's going to be speaking to Republican women." So she was all excited to come, and then I walked in and she looked at me and said, "It's me. It's me. I'm the one here." Yeah. So look, I really do appreciate all of you being here today. I appreciate you getting out of your home and coming here and joining us today, because apparently if you stay home, you can actually make more money. And that's not how America became the great nation, the great exceptional nation that it is today. Could you ever imagine Coach O just saying, "Yeah, we're just going to stay home for this game. We're not going to go"? I mean, could you ever imagine something like that happen? No. You can't win a job. You can't win a football game. You can't win a contract. You can't make a sale by staying home. You've got to engage and you've got to work. And I just want to remind y'all, just 4 years ago, and Lori mentioned the 2016 flood a few minutes ago, folks came together, and it didn't matter if it was a complete stranger. We came together and we rescued people, and I will never in my life forget seeing people paddling inflatable mattresses to go help neighbors, inflatable or portable swimming pools to go help neighbors, and of course boats and other more conventional floating objects. People were cooking for complete strangers, providing food for complete strangers, even housing complete strangers. Because when there's a need in our community, we all come together, we get up and we help each other.
Amen.
We don't lie back, roll over, and give up, which is what it looks like we're seeing right now. I told y'all when we first got into that race with Edwin Edwards that I still view as being surreal. But the reason I got into the race wasn't because of politics. It wasn't because I ever had a desire to be a politician. I'll tell you why I got into the race. I got into the race because I'm a father, because I'm a husband, because I have great friends and family members in this community, because it's personal. Watching what was happening in Washington, I didn't feel represented. I was concerned about the future of our community, of our state, and our nation. For our kids, for your kids, for our grandchildren. Because this country was on the wrong trajectory. Our values were not being represented. And you know, you look today at what's happening. You look at how coronavirus is being handled. And folks are, again, being paid more to stay home. they're shutting everything down. We're rolling over and giving up under government mandates in some cases. Look at how we have businesses and even churches that are being shut down and unable to operate or worship or celebrate or come together in fellowship. Look at how you are seeing thousands of people that are being allowed to go loot and riot and burn down. But you can't have people coming together to congregate in businesses or in churches. Look at the murders and the violent crimes that are happening in our community. Just before I came over here, I got an email from one of our children's teachers that said that they just graded a series of quizzes and that the grades were substantially lower than last year. Well, duh. You're trying to teach them virtually through a computer, and it's not the in-person present teaching that all of us experienced. And of course, this is a curveball, this is a challenge trying to teach under this environment. And look at the fights that you're seeing over the postal service. How do you make the mail partisan? And I'm going to talk about that more in a little while. Now, Laura in the introduction talked about some of the wins. So I talked about how this was personal. I talked about how I see a role for government. I think it's the government that is supposed to be focused on these core competencies, like take care of our dang traffic problem. Keep the water out of our homes and businesses and in the ditches, the bayous, canals, and rivers. It's focusing on our military men and women, our national security, our foreign affairs. And you know what? Get out of our other personal decisions and lives and business. And so we focused on those core competencies. And I will tell you, projects literally conceived before I was born, have been stuck. Like the West Shore project that was mentioned earlier, $750 million conceived before I was conceived. And that project's been stuck. That project's been stuck. And you know what? Working together with this president, we didn't just get it unstuck. It is 100% fully funded, $760 million in the bank, and construction is underway. Because I will tell you, this president understands you can spend millions today or billions tomorrow picking up the pieces, digging out the homes and businesses, and trying to reconstruct an economy that was destroyed. Right here in this area, it was mentioned the Comey project. This project dates back to the early 1980s. Early 1980s. And the project is designed to provide flood protection for East Baton Rouge, Livingston, and Ascension, in some cases bringing down water levels feet. And the project's been stuck. And we were able to work to address all of the bureaucracy and the wetlands mitigation and the cost share issues and secure $392 million. Again, working with this president, this administration that understands you spend millions today or billions tomorrow. The project's under construction as we speak and will be completed. The Corps of Engineers says by the end of next year, give them a little cushion. But it's going to provide us better service. And a decade later, in the early 1990s, the Baton Rouge Flood Control Project, stuck since the early 1990s. Beaver and Blackwater Bayou in the northern part of the parish, and Jones Creek, Ward Creek, and Bayou Fountain in the southern part. $255 million. The fact that you have the same streets that have flooded since when I was a kid, right at corporate over by Mansour, it's like, how does that even happen? Every single time, the Garden District, in Sherwood Forest, I mean, all these places, when it rains, they go underwater. How can it be this hard to fix these things? And so we've put funds, again, $255 million there, $112 million going directly to East Baton Rouge Parish, $68 million to Livingston Parish, on top of another $50 million we gave them, and $32 million to Livingston Parish, to clean out the ditches and the creeks and the canals and the bayous, to improve pump stations and drainage, and to get the water out of our neighborhoods and into the Gulf of Mexico where we want it. It's a fundamental role of government that they've completely failed at, not for years, but for decades. And on that other infrastructure area that was mentioned, the highway and the traffic. Look, we've had a bit of a pause there on our traffic problems in this region because of coronavirus. But we all know once this is over, we are going to be right back to an incredible gridlock all over our interstates and highways here once again. And this is an area where, again, government has failed. We've secured $1 billion in projects, things like folks said would never happen over 40 years. The only place where the interstate funnels to one lane. Secured all the funding, developed an alternative, and moving toward opening that interstate up. Adding more lanes on I-10. We just secured $135 million for LA1 down in Fushaw. And for those of you who go down to Grand Island, Fushaw to go fish, because that's the top energy port in the nation, has national implications, and the road goes underwater when the wind blows. And I'm not kidding. Largest grant in America because the president understands, Secretary Elaine Chao understands the relationship between investing in things or paying much more later when you're thinking of the pieces with the energy impacts that would be happening nationally. P2 Lane is another example. They're building a new overpass and going to have a new exit between Seaton and Highland because everybody knows Highland exit backs up onto the interstate and stops the interstate from actually working. Secured the funds, and that's moving forward. And on top of all of those things, last one I'm going to mention is that we secured $1.2 billion for prospective flood protection projects because, you know what? West Shore was 1970s, Comey was 1980s, and Baton Rouge flood was 1990s. We don't need to be preparing for the past, we prepare for the future. So let's make those investments in projects to prepare us for 2030s and 2040s like we need to do. Now it was mentioned that this election coming up is an important election. And look, I've said that before, but this time I mean it. No, really, this one is a big deal. It is a big deal looking at what's happening. And if you look at, if any of you saw the Republican convention last night, knocking it out of the park. But you know, you have two very different styles, and any of you watched the Democrat convention. Democrat convention was all about emotion and creating hatred and divisiveness and beating up on folks. And you saw the Republican one was talking about our future, talking about America's greatness, talking about our exceptionalism. Very, very different. And let me distill it even further. It wasn't just about talking about good things and trying to sow divisiveness and strong emotional frustration and negativity. It was about emotion versus facts. That's what it boils down to. It was about stirring people up emotionally in a negative sense versus facts. Why is it that people are breaking into our country? Breaking into our country from virtually every country in the world. Why is that? Why is it that people aren't saying, hey, let me in Mexico out of the United States? Why is it that people are coming here? Why is it that America continues to allow more people to immigrate to the United States than any other country in the world, yet it's still a fraction of those that want to come here? Why is it that people are coming from communist nations, and yes, AOC, I'm sorry, from socialist nations to come here? Why is that? Is it because they're convinced that AOC is going to be successful in converting us to socialism, so they're coming here based on that hope? No, it's based upon the facts of our history and how this nation is incredibly unique. It is exceptional. And it is based upon this sole premise that if you work hard, you can achieve your definition of success. It allows you to reap the benefits of your hard work. It incentivizes, not incentivizes you to stay home. It incentivizes you to work hard. And I love that people have that incentive. I love that people want to come here. I'll say it again, not because of what they expect to happen with our government, because of the proven past of access to, opportunity, access to achieve your definition of what the American dream is to you. So these people that are out there saying we need to move to Medicare for all, we need to provide universal basic income, which is basically what they did with the unemployment program. That is entirely contrary to the very unique strategy that caused America today to be the sole superpower, today to be this exceptional nation. And I want to remind you, this is fact. This is why people are trying to come here. They're coming here because of our success and because of the facts. We're going into a presidential election where one of the major candidates sat at home for 90 days. 89, to be fair. 89 days. Sat at home. This is the leader of the free world, the leader of the most powerful country in the world, and you are staying home? Not out there engaging and sharing your vision. Could you imagine if the roles were reversed and how the media would treat a Republican candidate who did that? I mean, they would be slandering this person on a daily basis. I've seen on Vice President Biden's website where he says, under my administration, we will have no oil and gas as part of this Green New Deal climate change strategy. Now, that's based on we need to reduce emissions. Let's talk about emotion, the emotion of the Green New Deal and about the green pastures and future of our country that we're leaving for the next generation. Do you know which country in the world has reduced emissions more than any other country? Do you know which country that is? It would be America. And not only do we reduce emissions, we reduce emissions more than the next 12 countries combined. You make these big changes in strategy when you're failing, not when you're succeeding. We are leading the world. You remember Obama's Clean Power Plan? He said you're going to use these energy technologies and you're going to reduce emissions by this much by this year. Do you know what we've done? We got rid of it and we reduced emissions 10 years earlier than he projected. 10 years! We did it without regulation, without mandates, without picking winners and losers. 10 years. Do you know that we can export our American natural gas, that we're exporting it out of Louisiana to 36 countries today? 36 countries? That's what Biden wants to shut down. Do you know that our natural gas is 41% cleaner emissions than Russian gas? So we're creating Louisiana jobs, we're increasing our exports, we're sending cleaner energy, and we're kneecapping the line of retreat. Why would you want to stop that? Which of those offends you? This is crazy. It is absolutely factless what they're doing. This is what the next administration needs if we allow Biden to become president. It is all based on emotion. It's not based on what's actually happening. It plays on the energy issue. It plays into the hands of Russia, of China, of Saudi Arabia. Remember when Russia and Saudis got together and were dumping energy on the markets at the beginning of coronavirus, trying to kill the American energy industry? The Democrats are joining them in that. China's out there developing all these they're building all the batteries to store energy. What happens if we move to wind and solar? We become beholden to China. Did we not learn our lesson from the mask and gloves and protective equipment? So Biden is playing into the hands of China, into the hands of Russia, into the hands of Saudi Arabia. This is a very dangerous election. Now, how ironic is it that you hear Nancy Pelosi talking about election security and ballot sanctity? Hold on, but at the same time, they're pushing proposals to have illegal immigrants, people from other countries, vote. I mean, if you can't make this up, they're concerned about the sanctity of our election, but they want foreigners to determine who the president is. You can't make this up. And to take it a step further, do you remember when the president was trying to add a question to the census that said, are you an American citizen? Let me give you a statistic. You want to talk facts again? In Louisiana, we have 6 members in the House of Representatives. 6. California has 53. Do you know how many of those are attributable to people that are not Americans? I'm not making this up. 6 to 8 of them. In California, they have as many or more votes than we do in the House of Representatives due to people that aren't even American citizens. You want to talk about election security, election sanctity, and you have people literally from other countries, because you know how the electoral college, they get votes in the electoral college based upon those illegal immigrants and giving them more members of Congress, more electoral votes. Let's talk about the postal service. You heard him say, oh, this is absolutely an effort by the Trump administration to stop ballots from being mailed in. Every single day, mail service handles 472 million pieces of mail. Every single day. 472 million pieces of mail. If every single voter voted by mail, over probably a 6-week period, you would have 150 million additional pieces. Right? Which is a single-digit increase. You can absorb that, if every person, you can absorb it if you wanted to. So this whole mail crisis thing is bogus. Number 2, they're removing mailboxes. You know how many mailboxes President Obama removed when he was there? 14,000. Did he do it for partisan reasons? No. He did it for efficiency. Just during coronavirus, mail has gone down 24%. Mail has gone down, I'm trying to remember, I think it's 36% over like the last 15 years. We've seen huge trouble. So what you do is, in any business, if your business is dropping, do you maintain that level as though you were 36 or 24% higher? No, you adapt to the size, you scale. People are emailing things now. They're taking pictures with their phone and texting it to somebody instead of putting it in their mail. You can do electronic consent on some documents off your phone. So mail's dropping. You adapt to that business case. You don't go out and continue losing, as the Postal Service has, $135 billion. They're supposed to be self-sustaining. Do you know that the mail sorting machines today for parcels and flat mail have over 30% excess capacity? Who cares if we put the old ones back? You already have excess capacity. What are you doing? But these are the facts that they don't want you to know. But because they're facts, they're not emotion. They create a false narrative. They get everybody emotionally riled up. When you look at the facts, the overtime, oh, you cut overtime. You know what overtime was last year? 13%. You know what it is this year? 13%. A huge drop. So we can't let these folks go out there and create these false narratives and false issues based on emotion. We've got to inject facts into the equation. We've got to inject facts. And this whole universal mail-in voting thing, as much as the idea may be attractive for ease of voting, how in the world can it be easier for me to vote than it is for me to get on an airplane, buy cigarettes, and all that stuff? Sign up for a Facebook account? Have you ever tried to do that? My gosh. You send them your birth certificate? I mean, it's crazy the things that they have. Create an Apple ID? How is it that has more security than voting? That's wrong. You've got to be able to ensure or validate the people that are actually voting. And universal mail-in voting, it creates opportunity to undermine the sanctity of the elections, which they have purported to be expressing support for. Now, I want to talk about one other issue. I talked about coronavirus and all of the craziness that's going on there. We have 2 hurricanes, or 1 hurricane and 1, whatever that was. That I will tell you, we prayed away. I mean, how is it that? I mean, you watch those forecasts and models, it was coming right to the west of Baton Rouge, right up the river, and all of a sudden it hits Plaquemine and makes a hard left turn. I mean, that was rare. But now we need to pray for our friends in Southwest Louisiana with the Lord. But you know, the other thing that's been odd, and I made mention of this, was all the riots and looting and everything else. And look, based on what I saw with George Floyd, that was off. It was, and I think it was wrong, based on what I saw. And I know there's new film with fentanyl, and we'll figure it all out. But what I saw was wrong. Now, you know what, there are a couple of young folks that are here, and I want to thank you all very much for being here. When you look at the demographics of the Republican Party, and the Republican women have been doing an absolutely remarkable job, so thank you for y'all's work, because y'all have been a consistent network that's been out there communicating, and not in these little pods, you're communicating with your networks in national state. Because you know what? You look at the demographics of our party, with the exception of these folks that actually chose to read beyond the facade and beyond the emotion and actually understand things, understand our history. With the exception of the few young people that are here, we don't have the demographics that make this party sustainable. When you look at the Hispanic population, when you look at the African American population as members of the party, we don't have enough representation within this party. And does that mean that we need to change our platform? No, I don't think it does. Because I will remind you, we are the ones that are supporting, defending, and creating the opportunity to achieve prosperity, to achieve your definition of the American dream. And I will tell you, you can throw me into any crowd in any room, and I mean in any crowd in any room, and I will speak these truths and I will defend this till I die. I do. I believe this all the way down. I do. We tried to make changes to the food nutrition program, the SNAP program, one of the many welfare programs that are out there. We tried to make changes to it because there was evidence in Alabama, in Kansas, and in Maine that when they did a pilot program and they connected those food programs, they connected them with job training and job assistance. In some cases, you had a 60% reduction in unemployment. 60%. That is great news for those that are impoverished. And you know what? Whenever we worked with that, you know who fought us? The Democrats. The Democrats fought us on providing a better pathway, a better solution for those that are impoverished, those that do not have a chance, do not have a shot at reaching their definition of success, and that option of reaching prosperity. I believe that there is a concerted effort within the leadership that is trying to prevent people from being given that access to opportunity, trying to make them continue to be beholden to those very leaders and to that very party, rather than allowing them to get a taste of prosperity and freedom and opportunity. And so I'll say it again, put me in any room. But I think that we've got a job to do in breaking through young people and breaking through to a more diverse demographic, to African Americans, Hispanics, and others, to help them to understand what our party stands for. And it is not what Nancy Pelosi says about us. That I just went through a few of those, whether it was climate, the election security issues, the postal service. It's not. The facts do not support those bogus claims. And so we all have a job to do there. Now, last thing I want to say, and I heard the president's tweets mentioned earlier, and I want to be clear. I don't like it. I don't. If I said many of the things that he tweeted, my mom would put Tabasco on my tongue, as she did when I was a kid, until I started liking Tabasco. And then she just slapped me. And look, I'm going to take it a step further. I'll tell you, I had our 10-year-old standing from me to you with the president, and he started cussing. And no, that's not okay. It's not. But let me tell you something. You want to talk about, we get past this facade of how he made people feel sometimes, and you want to talk about facts. You want to talk about facts, record economic activity, standing up to China and saying you're not going to steal our inventions and cause America to lose not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, millions of jobs, hundreds of billions of dollars in economic activity. No, you're not going to do that. We are going to provide opportunity to where you have the lowest unemployment rate for women, the lowest unemployment rate for African Americans, for Hispanic Americans, for Asian Americans, in some cases ever in American history, creating more opportunity, getting more teams working than we have seen in decades. At the end of the day, We've got to hold people accountable to these false narratives, to this divisiveness, to these manufactured crises. And we've got to hold people accountable to facts. You need to ask yourself, and you need to ask your friends to ask themselves, when they go into that election booth, they need to be asking themselves, who do you want leading us out of this global recession? Who do you want working to recreate opportunity for Americans and even those that legally immigrate here? Who do you want to do that? Do you want Biden? Hey, wait, you're on camera. Or do you want the president that has done this in his personal life, that has done this as president of the United States? And yes, I wish I could take his Twitter account away. I do. But who do you want leading us out of that? You've got to ask yourself that question, and ask your friends to ask themselves that question, because that's what this is about. People who is going to stand up for America when these other countries come and challenge us and steal from us and pirate our technology and undermine our national security? Who is going to help create economic opportunity to those that are getting out of high school or finishing trade school or getting out of college where they actually have jobs to go into? Who's going to do that? Which one of those people is going to actually stand up for us and lead us? There's only one answer there. And yes, the Twitter warts it all. Yes, there's only one answer there. And it's not campaign promises written on paper. It's fact, this is what I've done. There's evidence in his first term. And he's worked for Louisiana, helping with our flood and traffic issues as well. I know I'm pulling the ballot for. I'm pulling the rest of the buttons. I do. And there's really no question at the end of the day. This election is important. It is consequential. And we all have to show it. So, thank you. Thank you all very much. Debbie says we have time for one or two questions. And yes, hey, how you doing?
We can't hear you.
I just wanted
I'll repeat.
I just said thank you for talking, but I wanted to know if any work has begun, any physical work has begun on draining these ditches.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so she first said if I was her child, I would be her favorite. No, she asked if any actual work has been done on drainage and on the ditches. So this is really amazing, but dating back to December of 2016, we secured some of the numbers I ran through: 112 million for East Baton Rouge, 68 million for Livingston, 32 million for Ascension, plus another $50 million supplement for Livingston Parish. All these through many different programs. And Livingston Parish to date has cleaned out. They've done what's called clearing and snagging, where they go through with marsh buggies and other things, and ditches, canals, bayous, rivers. They've done about 250, is that where you are now? About 250 miles. 250 miles of work. Now, one of the programs they had, it worked a little bit faster, and they were able to get access to funds. In EBR, they really have not made that same kind of progress. And there are two main programs. There's $112 million that's through what's called the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, and there's $255 million through what's called Baton Rouge Area Flood Control, which is the 5 canals and bayous that I talked about. That second one, the $255 million, involves the Corps of Engineers. There have been a lot of meetings going back and forth. There was a holdup for a while because the state and the city couldn't come up with the cost share. They had to put up, so they had to put up, I'm trying to remember the number, was it 21 or 40? 64 million? But no, for the real estate words. Okay, so they had to come up with $40 million over about 2.5 years, over about a 2.5-year period, and then ultimately had to come up with about another 22 million over the next 30 years. They couldn't find the money to access 255 million. They had to come up with about 40 million over 2.5 years. And they couldn't find the 40 million. And so we were going to lose the $250 million. And so we quickly engaged the governor and the mayor, and started working with them and said, you understand that, I think we got to the point where we're about 2 weeks away from actually them saying they were going to, if we didn't do it in 2 weeks, they were going to reprogram the cash. But thankfully, we were able to get it all worked out. I actually just spoke to the mayor yesterday because there's a lot of fighting going on with Livingston, East Baton Rouge, and Ascension over projects. If you do this, you can flood me. If you do this, you can flood me. And so we have been working as kind of referee among the three. And I spoke to the mayor yesterday. We're trying to get back together again to prevent lawsuits because there's already two lawsuits, and we're trying to prevent 2 or maybe even 3 more because that will just delay things further. So not as much, at the end of the day, not as much progress that you and I wish would be happening, but money is secured, it's in the bank. Again, I will say on the Comey project, there are a number of bridges that have to be built because right now you have Highway 19, Highway 67, Highway 61, and the railroads that all are at grade and we're going to dig a canal under them. So those have to be converted to bridges. Contracts have been issued for those. All of the clearing and grubbing work for the entire alignment has been done. They've removed all the trees and everything else. And so they will start digging this year on that project that we can be. You bet. Yes.
Thank you for everything you do.
You bet.
I met your mother about 4 years ago. I was honored at Center for Foundation. You were also, but your mother was there. You couldn't make it.
All right, so do you remember I had to cut the video?
Yeah.
And I cut the video, and in the video I go, oh look, there's my mom. And I pointed, my mom was, how did you know where I was going to be? I recorded it before, and I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
Got a kick out of that.
I have a television show here, Diane Andrews, in black and white, and I'm in 3 million homes. I'm the largest show in the state, as a matter of fact. And last month, I told everyone in here, we need more people who look like me. We need more young people. It's exactly what you're saying. I did a show. I did it, the mayor. I mean, I've done 3 shows with this return.
Speak up.
Can you hear me? Don't have a problem with that. Okay. In fact, I taped him 2 weeks ago. I did a show on defunding the police, and as you know, Hill Moore is a Democrat. And he said, I think they need reallocation of funds. I said, I have to beg to disagree with you, District Attorney Moore. And we're good. As I said, this is his 3rd time on my show. And I said, New York is not defunding. They are defunding the police. They took $1 billion, and I say these things on my show. I am a conservative, and I was a Democrat, as most people did start. But I did a show about 3.5 years of the Kobe River Project that you just talked about. I had, he was a doctor, a PhD, he's a climatologist and a geography professor at LSU. He was on the show. It was an attorney. I've done about 500 people in the last 4 years, I think. But, and also I had, the Mayor Walker was on that show. I think he's no longer there.
Yeah, he moved to Arkansas.
But I also want to bring up the fact, wasn't the commissioner of that Kobe River Project a friend of John Edwards, and wasn't he making $200,000 a year or something? I think I read.
I'm not sure if it was a commissioner, but I think I know who you're talking about. And then there was someone who was, and I think maybe still is, making a significant amount of money. But right now, there's largely the Corps of Engineers and other state entities managing this for the most part. And let me say it again, the project right now is projected to be finished. The Corps of Engineers still tells me by the end of next year. I think they're probably going to slide a few months, but the money is locked in. It's there. It's not going anywhere. This project moving forward, we had a few hiccups where the railroads were blocking us. There was some property right utility issues. And I'll tell you, we got on the phone and have been able to continue knocking out these obstacles. That project's going to happen.
That's
It
great,
is.
because
It is.
as
Hey, let me.
walk
She's
down
talking about
that
Kobe.
and a half.
What's that?
The last flood we here, if we had that diversion canal, it would have put the water down about 1.5
Yeah, you said lower 1.5 and in some areas even more. But let me say one thing, Lisa. She was talking about how she agrees with the need for more diversity in our party. I got to tell you something. I can't even begin to tell you how much I commend your courage. Look, people get, and not just you, people get in these bubbles where all your friends, all you hear is more liberal or Democrat ideology and policies and things like that. And the fact that you all actually spent time looking at this, researching it, I mean, puts you in a very uncomfortable situation that I'll tell you, it means that your courage overflows.
My brother is dean of business at Southern University. He is a staunch liberal. I mean, I have
arguments with everybody. You ask me that question. And it's amazing. And not just black. If you're a professor, the last person I dated was a professor of biochemistry. He's a white girl. We broke up because why didn't both of them and basically it was a lot of the problems. Liberals versus, but when I have an aunt who lives in California, she's 80 years old. She loves Trump. She watched CNN, we watched the RNC last night, we watched the DNC. There is no comparison because those are real people. They had illusions of people and all negativity. These aren't people. Donald Trump, I talk about him all the time on my show. In fact, my editor says he's black guy out of Texas. He's a Democrat. He said, you always praising Trump. I said, I just give facts. My undergraduate degree is mathematics. 2 plus 2 happens to equal 4. And in Donald Trump's administration, 2 plus 2 doesn't.